Well, welcome to Grace Grit Unfiltered. This is the podcast where we strip away the polished facade and get real about faith, leadership, and the grind of everyday life. This isn't your typical Bible study or Sunday morning sermon. This is where we have unfiltered conversations about what it means to navigate life's highs and lows with both divine grace and undeniable grit. I'm Patrick Taylor. I'm a husband, I'm a father, a leader, and someone who, just like you, is learning how to stay anchored in faith while pushing through the challenges of life. On our first episode, I want to set the stage and talk about what is grace and grit really about. Why are these two elements so essential, and how do we work together in the messiness of real life? So let's dive in. Let's be honest, life is tough, right? No matter who you are or where you come from, you're going to face challenges that leave you wondering, how am I going to get through this? For me, there have been numerous times that I felt like I was juggling too much. I was leading the church, being there for my family, pursuing higher education, and trying to live out my purpose. And I'd ask myself, am I really built for this? Am I really equipped to get through and to navigate these highs and lows of life? Am I asking too much of myself? Grit is waking up and doing the hard things, even when you don't feel like it. It's showing up when you'd rather stay in bed. It's saying that I may not have all the answers, but I'm not giving up. I've realized that it's not either or in this situation. Grace gives you the foundation, yes, but grit keeps you moving forward. So together they create something that's unstoppable, and that's what it means to have grace and grit. Grace isn't just what we have commonly called in the church the unmerited favor of God, but grace is a charisma. Grace is actually a power that we are given in order to do what it is we have been purposed to do. So why is this podcast different? Because we're not here to sugarcoat or give you some churchy version of life, because the bottom line is life is real and life is hard. And depending on where you came up, what circles you've been able to run in, you'll see that it's harder for some than it is for others. Everybody is going through something. Everybody is having to deal with some situation or circumstance that they feel overwhelmed by, something that they feel that is just too hard for them. And we deal with various leadership burnouts. We deal with various struggles with self-discipline. As far as myself, I've dealt with procrastination, different family dynamics, and just navigating life in this world. So each week, we want to talk about the issues with transparency. What's really going on? What are we facing? And it's not about me giving you this, hold on, God is going to work it out. Because while you're trying to hold on, sometimes your grip gets a little bit loose. Sometimes you may get cramps in your hands trying to hold on. Sometimes you might even slip, but we have to be able to continue to press forward, to continue to move forward. So then we're going to be talking about the issues with transparency. I'll share some lessons from my own life, as well as share with people I admire, leaders, thinkers, and everyday heroes who are living where grace meets grit. When I look and think about the life that Jesus lived, he is one of the best examples. I'll admit that in my church life, I've heard the hold on messages. I've heard the messages that were supposed to encourage us to endure and to persevere. But that's not always been the case. Because while I'm getting the hold on, I felt like I needed to, how do I hold on? I'm reminded of an exercise I do at the gym. They call it deadlift. And with the deadlift, the barbell is on the floor. And you take the barbell and you squat to pick it up and you lift it, deadlift from the floor. But I noticed that when I deadlift, I have to have my hands set a certain way. And one hand has to be over the bar, the other hand has to be under the bar. And I've tried to have both hands over the bar. I've seen some people with a grip with both hands over the bar. But for me, I work best with one hand under and another hand over. And not everybody can lift with that type of grip. Some people have to go two hands over. Even with playing drums, we have a match grip where you hold both sticks overhand, and then you have a traditional grip where you have your dominant hand holding the stick overhand and the other hand with the stick cradled between your index finger and your middle finger and your third finger, little finger, and balance or pivoting with the thumb. Not everybody is going to grip the same. We have put Jesus in this place where he's the same with everybody, and he's really not. Each disciple had a different relationship with Jesus based on not necessarily who he was, but who they were. And the Apostle Paul says that I became all things to all men that I may by all means win some. It's not that we pretend to be somebody that we aren't. Is that we allow ourselves to empathize. We allow ourselves to be in the same mindset or in the same position that other people find themselves in. I had to learn to be empathetic. And even today, I'm trying to be more empathetic to others, because my motto was, I'm not going to ask somebody to do something that I haven't done or I'm already or wouldn't be willing to do. I slowly began to understand that not everybody is built the same way that I am. And people are going to face challenges. People are going to face life differently. So then how do we do it? Again, the Bible tells us that Jesus is, in Hebrews it says, we have not a high priest who isn't touched with the feelings of our infirmities, but he was tempted even as we are, but yet he was without sin, or something along those lines. Basically, it tells us that Jesus feels our pain. Jesus knows what we have been through because he himself had to endure it. I'm reminded of his relationship with John the Baptist. And what many people have not noticed, I believe, in studying Jesus' life and his interaction with John the Baptist not only was his older cousin, but John the Baptist was his mentor. It says a lot when Jesus was baptized in the Jordan by John. And even though John was reluctant to baptize him, it was because of the relationship that they were in that Jesus says, you have to baptize me. And John acquiesced to Jesus' request and baptized him. But now, because they would have grown up in close proximity to one another, they would have grown up and even as adults come to the same place that Jesus was learning from John. We look at Jesus as somebody who came here knowing, and while, yes, Jesus, as he walked the earth, is God, he was God then, he was also man. They call that the hypostatic union. And what it meant is, or what it means is, that he was God, but at the same time, he was also man. So just like we have to learn, just like we have to navigate, just like we feel, Jesus felt. So then when he hears that his mentor, his older cousin, John, was brutally murdered by Herod, Jesus goes up into the mountain basically to feel what he was feeling because he feels the pain of loss. The Bible tells us in Isaiah that he was a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. And that means that he felt what we feel. There is no feeling that we feel that Jesus didn't feel. So then it's important that we can understand that he knows. We can understand that he feels and he felt the very same things that we feel. So then when John is beheaded, he goes off up in a mountain basically to feel the emotions that a person would feel for somebody that they love and admired, somebody that they respected, lost. But yet there were those that were coming to him that had their own pains, that had their own sorrows. And Jesus had to put what he was feeling on the back burner in order to help people to get through what it was that they were going through, in order to help people to deal with those things that they were dealing with. They had people that were suffering with mental illness. We call it mental illness today, and not every mental illness is what it is. Some mental illnesses are actually spiritual because they're demonic, but that's not what we're getting into tonight. But Jesus would help people to deal with the things that they were going through, the pains in their bodies, the pains and the suffering that they would have been feeling in their minds. And he took time from where he was. And that's what people have to realize, that there is a lot on leaders. You have to understand that there is a lot on you as an individual, as a leader, somebody who may be leading on the job, somebody who may be a leader in the household, somebody who may be a leader in the church. There's a lot on leaders. The Bible tells us to whom much is given, much is required. So then as we understand that, we then know that there is an empathy, first of all, as fellowship, as the fellowship that we have to feel for our leaders, understanding that if I'm feeling this way, how does my leader feel? But then as leaders, we also have to understand that there is a great responsibility on us. And it's not all the time that we can take time for ourselves. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but it's not all the time that we can take time for ourselves, because there are people that are counting on us. There are people that are in need. And honestly, even in those times that I was going through certain situations, certain things that had been weighing on me, to actually be there to help somebody else also helped me. So then as leaders, we have to understand that there is a dynamic that we have to navigate. There are issues that people are dealing with, that while we're dealing with our issues, we are also expected to help them with their issues. And we use that grace to help them, because it's not in our power to help them, but it is in the power that is entrusted in us to help them. We use that grit to continue to press through, to continue to push through, and we continue to grind. So let's look at some practical takeaways. One of the things that we have to do is we have to be honest about where we are. We need to take a moment to reflect on the areas that we might feel stuck, whether it be in our career, whether it be in our relationships, whether it even be with our faith. We have to take an honest assessment of ourselves and where we are, how we're feeling, the progress we've made, or even the progress we didn't make that we expected to make. And the other thing is that we don't need to be afraid to ask for help. One of the things that I've come to understand is that, for one, I don't have all the answers. And I need to be humble enough to admit that, no, I don't have all the answers. No, I don't know everything. And we have to be willing to admit that and to ask for help. I'm reminded of an assignment that I had on my job, and the assignment was overwhelming But at the same time, I felt like, well, my boss should know what it is that he's put on my plate. So he should know how much this is going to require. Well, the project ended up successful, but some of the learnings was that I needed to know my limitations and be able to ask for help and not assume that just because I was given the assignment that I was given, that I was expected to complete the assignment on my own. So then we have to be honest with where we are, honest about where we are, and then we can't be afraid to ask for help. And then we want to be able to commit to action. So after you've done this assessment and after you've seen where you are, then you need to be able to say, okay, this is something that I plan to do in order to make myself better. So then you commit to one action. Whatever you've identified as an area for improvement, you make a plan as to how you're going to make that improvement. How much will it take? What do you need in order to make that improvement? And then you go from there. So you want to be honest about where you are. That's number one. Ask for help. That's number two. And then commit to an action to improve your standing, to improve your grit, if you would. So then, before I wrap up, I want to thank you for being a part of this journey. This is just the beginning of Grace and Grit Unfiltered, and I'm excited about what's ahead. If this episode resonated with you, I'm asking you to subscribe. I want you to share it with someone who needs a reminder that they're not in this thing alone, that they're not on this grind alone. Follow me on social media for some behind the scenes insights and conversations and don't forget to leave a review. Put your comments to let me know, this resonated with me, or what can you tell me about this? Because I want this to be a conversation. As we get our subscribers up, I also want to go live from time to time so that we can answer questions on the spot, because it's all about us growing in grace and grit together. So until then, I want you to remember that grace gets you started, but grit keeps you going. So from here on out, keep grinding, my friends.